versus type B CD. Type A CDs credit only maturity. Type B pay on normal, monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, or annual. They receive their earnings the same night. The type B use exception crediting and the MCEDO features. Type A CDs pay either on maturity date or the anniversary of the data was opened or last renewed. Secondary pre-check. For this to occur, you must have 1. Pay at maturity, 2. 933 trailers, and 3. Mature the following month. Some of the other processing features. Secondary pre-check. In order for secondary pre-check to be effective, you must have 3 things. It must pay at maturity, have 933 trailers, and mature the following month. For the type A CDs, the next date crediting in the 930 trailer is used instead of the maturity date.
So close and yet so far. Headed for city lights, climb the ladder up to fortune and fame. I work my fingers to the bone, made myself a name. Funny, I seem to find.
Type A CD versus Type B. Type A credits on maturity date or an anniversary date of its last opened. Type B CD pays on normal monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, or annual crediting nights. All accounts in a Type B receive their earnings on the same night. Type B CDs are involved with exception crediting and MCEDO features. Secondary pre-check pays at maturity, has 933 trailers, and matures the following month. The Type A CD will use the date of next crediting in the 930 trailer instead.
There's a place in the world for a gambler. There's a pain that only he can bear. There's a place in the world for a gambler. And he sees, oh yes he sees. And he sees, oh yes he sees. There's a light
Maybe you should just start out like
There's a place in the world for a gambler. There's a burden that only he can bear. There's a place in the world for a gambler. And he sees, oh yes he sees.
you are fucking.
I want that. There's a place in the world for a gambler.
It sounds to awake you. Once again, steal you from a dream you thought was real. You close your eyes and feel your face through the hands. It's a frozen image that hides your eyes. You put on that new face before the mirror on the wall, dreaming through that looking glass for those castles in the sky, where it never rains, but not for long. A slow song waits for you to sing. As you stand in for the morning rain, or you watch the sun that invites itself into your world, you are warm when all else is cold. For you nurture your streams of thought through foggy nights and sunless days. A soul that is full as you turn and face the rain, a mystical awareness. No, a searching for the truth. To go great by your dreams, but few of us find them unless we feel and believe. Don't let the gates close to be a fallen gypsy. You want to stay, but you know you can't. It's almost apocalypse now. Awake from your dream. It's time. It's here. It sounds to awake you. Once again, it steals you from a dream you thought was real. You close your eyes to feel the face of your hands. It's a frozen image that hides your eyes. You put on that new face before the wall, dreaming through that looking glass for those castles in the sky, where it never rains. Fret not for long. A Slovenian gypsy waits for you to sing. You stand in from the morning rain and watch the sun invite itself into your world. You're warm when all else is cold, for you nurture your streams of thought through the foggy nights and sunless days. A soul that is full as you turn and face the rain, a mystical awareness. No. A searching for the truth, to grow great by your dreams, but few of us find them unless we feel them and believe. Don't let that gate close to be a fallen gypsy. You want to stay, but you You want to stay, but you know you can't. Where does it go? No one knows. It's almost apocalypse. Awake from your dream. It's time. It's here. It sounds to awake you. Once again, it steals you from the dream you thought was so real. You close your eyes and you feel your face to your hands. It's a frozen image that hides your eyes. You put on your new face before the mirror on the wall, dreaming through that looking glass of those castles in the sky, where it never rains, but fret not for long. A Slovenian song awaits for you to sing. You stand in from the morning rain and watch as the sun invites itself into your world. You're warm when all else is cold. For you nurture those streams of thought through foggy nights and sunless days. A soul that is full as you turn and face the rain. A mystical awareness? No. A searching for the truth to grow great by your dreams. But few of us find unless we feel and believe. Don't let the gates close now. Don't be that fallen gypsy. You wait to stay, but you can't. Where does it go? It's almost apocalypse. Awake from your dream. It's time. It's now. It sounds to awake you. Once again, it steals you from a dream you thought was real. You close your eyes to feel the face through your hands. It's a frozen image that hides your eyes. You put on that new face before the mirror on the wall, dreaming through the looking glass of those castles in the sky, where it never rains. But fret not for long. A Slovenian song awaits for you to sing. You stand in from the morning rain, and you watch as the sun invites itself into the room. You're full when all else is cold. When you nurture the streams of thought, through the foggy nights and sunless days, a soul that's full as you turn and face the rain. A mystical awareness, you might say. No. Searching for the truth, trying to grow great by your dreams. Few of us find them unless we truly feel and believe. Don't let those gates close. Don't be a fallen gypsy. It's almost apocalypse. Awake from your dream.
Force. You have to say, no, this is as far as you're going to go. If you move beyond this, you're going to be in trouble. That facility union would understand. Now, if we assume this to be the situation, and an awful lot of them did, the whole theory here is that the only way you respond to this stimulus is by economic, military, or diplomatic tools of one kind or another. In other words, containment seems to be the policy. Kennedy appears to have, a man by the name of Clark Clifford, who maybe you probably heard, was an advisor in the State Department on foreign affairs, and subsequently was brought to the White House as the president's personal advisor. He had no confidence in Clifford. Clifford wrote initially a position paper for the president advising this. Secretary of State Burns asked Kennan to comment upon Clifford's paper. Kennan refused to comment on it, but said he would like to write a paper of his own, which became the famous article, the Mr. X article, which is an establishment policy. But when you compare the paper with the X article, you find some similarities. Now, whether the two men had discussed this together, or whether they simply turned up with the same ideas or not, is something we'll probably never know. The point is, Clifford had many of these long overwork, several before the article appeared. And the article by Kennan uses sometimes verbatim the same language as the Clifford report. And here again, as I said, Secretary of State Burns has spoken about this even before this time. So, to me, the only thing you can come away with is, at least as my opinion, you can use your own judgment, it is that a number of people are involved in this policy. Even though Kenneth may have been given the credit because he had the State Department's policy planning staff, the fact of the matter is he was not in very many of the sessions of the council that ultimately drew up the policy. That is, those plans really were framed for the president. Clark Clifford was active, Dean Atchison was very active, a number of others were active. But as far as I can see, Kenneth only appeared once or twice at meetings. So here again, despite his position, he does not seem to have been too active beyond theory. I think the big advantage of Kenneth is its elaboration. Because Kenneth knew Russian history, knew Russian foreign policy, who was considered the expert of the Soviet Union, and consequently the formulation of these presumptions that I speak of here, the formulation of the concept of imperialism, which goes back toward the Tsars, and of Russia's territorial ambition. Apparently, were his papers, forming those kind of historical background for the play. But the principle itself, the response itself, appears not to have originated, certainly only with George Kennedy. Okay, so that's all I can say at the moment about authorship. I'll get back to Kennedy in another connection. A number of people were involved in all this. Now, I want to make some observations about the policy of containment before we go into its implementation. I've already suggested to you that there are some assumptions here. You realize that the United States is going to respond to Soviet efforts to expand, and if we're going to respond in a non-military way at all, this presumes a certain creativity about American foreign policy. It assumes that it's a very vital and dynamic kind of policy, okay? It presumes also that containment is the only way to handle the situation. For example, it would have been difficult to suggest after we formulated the policy of containment that detente would ever have been possible. Isn't that interesting? Because now we think that's where the answer is. Detente, Kennedy made it very clear that detente was impossible. He said there can be nothing but rivalry between the Soviet Union and the United States. There cannot be a partnership. Partnership we had during the war was simply born of wartime necessity. It cannot exist afterwards. There are too many vast differences in the history, the culture, the whole background, the relations between the United States and the Soviet Union, the whole ideological difference. All these can suggest make rivalry the fact of international life, not cooperation. So it assumes, as you say, that the only answer, the only response to Russia's hostility is containment. It seems to throw off detente as an answer. I told you a moment ago that as soon as the communism must be predatory to survive. It also assumes that the United States is willing to live with a long-term, vigilant policy that will have no quick results. In other words, if all these things are going to happen, that I suggested to you are going to happen, it isn't going to happen next week, or next month, or maybe next year. It may take many, many years. So we presume that the United States is ready for a long-term, very patient, very vigilant kind of policy. And that may have been something given the attitude of the American people towards foreign affairs. It also presumes something else, that we have accepted the principle of spheres of influence and power protection. This is essentially what it is. It's the Eastern power bloc under the Soviet Union being told in effect that the Western power bloc under the United States will not tolerate their movement out of their then existing sphere of influence. Remember the talk at Quebec between Churchill and Stalin? That in effect established spheres of influence. Well, they've become a reality right now. And Mr. Roosevelt refused to go along with that, still protesting the spheres of influence and all wars and so on. In fact, this is all we have accepted. Russia is leader, the fate won't be better. We are in the West, we are the leaders of the West. And we adopt a policy to contain them, and we are right to call them. Substituting the international law, international organization with book power, or return to the very thing that Franklin Roosevelt did not want. Now, of course, the President Mr. Truman was not committed to the idea of avoiding security influence and politics of Mr. Roosevelt. But I think it's worth noting that we have practically come over to Britain's way of thinking here and to the Soviet Union way of thinking and forced the situation on us. All right, here's the power of the West, here's the power of the East. We stand in front of each other. That was nothing more than they were. We with our allies and you with your allies. You're not doing the free world war one situation. Two situations. And Roosevelt said the cause of wars, and so we need to get away from the spheres of influence and power politics and diplomacy. It seems to me we can turn to that here, at least for a while. I think you see also that the policy of containment allows the Soviet Union to make all moves first, which is interesting because it puts us on the defensive and on the offensive. Unless we can anticipate her moves, we have to wait and see where she strikes. It's a very defensive posture on the part of the United States, and criticized by many of the time for being too defensive. Imagine, if you will, a checker game in which you or your opponent has all moves. You have no chance to go out flanking, presumably. You have to wait until he moves and see what you do. The response. You initiate nothing. You strictly respond to whatever he initiates and where he initiates. And it follows from this thinking too, by the way, and here's another observation, that the United States then had better be prepared to meet these responses quickly, and if they involve military action of any kind, we better be prepared for short-term wars with conventional weapons. But if there's a breakout from the containment right here, you've got to hit it. If it appears over here, you've got to hit it. Suppose it appears both places at one time. Presumably, you've got to hit it. With some response, and if that response is military, then the United States better be prepared for short-range conventional wars, which of course will affect the defense policy of the United States. We are in effect saying to the Soviet Union, stay where you are. If you move, then we will move. But you see, she has the advantage of movers moving. And that's something else that goes into an understanding of what's involved. Naturally, of course, the revisionist historians assume that the policy of containment only increases the hostility and fear of the West on the part of the Soviet Union. And you encourage towards militarism attitude. And you have also encouraged or given succor to the communist thought that there is always, without the Soviet Union, an enemy. In other words, those who talk in terms of totalitarian government say that one of the themes of this, one of the things that makes a totalitarian government remain totalitarian is to always tell their people that you've got to be strong and centralized because out there is an enemy waiting to get us. And the concept of the quote enemy always at your doors keeps you willing to be centralized and totalitarian. Okay, if you accept that theory, that idea, then of course critics of this policy. You're giving food to the theory of that the enemy is there. In this case, the obvious move that the United States needs more because we have to move and stop. Presumably, with some kind of military action, but in order to act, we're going to stop. So immediately, hostility to the Soviet Union is built up. She fears the West even more, and then tells her people, see, the enemy is always there. So she strengthens her position. Many people in Russia are really strong, and they will strengthen their position even more than it was as a result of being able to quote the enemy. Their relations could be this the response, in fact, and could be the same in Asia, in Latin America, in Europe, in the Middle East, and so on. You know, all over the world. There's movements, I know, policy convention, so it does assume a policy that can be broadly applied. Certainly, it constituted the first challenge the United States had to for leadership and from the leadership of Western countries. That's the theory. Those are some observations on it. Now let's talk about its implementation. I'm still talking, of course, about Europe. The first instance, as you probably know, is the Greece and Turkey in 1947, 48. What happened here was that the Soviet Union, still following her historic objectives of getting close to and some control of the eastern Mediterranean near the Suez Canal, was with pressuring Greece and Turkey. In the case of Turkey, it was mostly pressure on the Turkish government to grant air and naval bases to the Soviet Union, which of course would put her in the eastern Mediterranean. In the case of Greece, she appears to have been more concerned with active infiltration. And you have guerrilla warfare. Figures show, and these are not terribly accurate, 13,000 guerrillas trained in Yugoslavia and Bulgaria being imported to Greece and conducting in the mountainous areas of Greece the kind of guerrilla warfare that the Greeks currently had difficulty in meeting in an attempt to graduate subversion and force again Greece into the Soviet orbit in what we would call the Near East. Apparently, this was made a lot easier in late 1946 when Great Britain, who had normally had control of there, announced that she was withdrawing all military aid to Turkey. Now, the reason she did this was because, frankly, Britain was in bad shape after World War II, and she could not afford to extend the military and economic aid to another sphere of influence when she needed this money for rehabilitation. And so under the circumstances, she informed the United States that after military and economic force of Greece and Turks, that she no longer aid, economic or military. Under the circumstances, this created a vacuum, a power vacuum in the Near East. And of course, the Soviet Union then stepped up for pressure in both Greece and Turkey, stepped up the guerrilla warfare and the pressure in Turkey to move into that power vacuum. And it was at this point that the Greeks and the Turks asked the United States for help. They asked us, in other words, to move into that power vacuum to confront the Soviet Union, to give them the kind of aid that Britain had been giving up until this point. Take Britain's place in the Near East, the Eastern Mediterranean. And made it very clear, especially in the case of Greece, who was under direct attack because of the guerrilla warfare, that she could not survive long without this kind of aid. And was determined to give aid outside, military and economic aid. Otherwise, the number of guerrillas being trained currently were able to, would be able to infiltrate to the point where it was going to result in a coup. And then Greece would disappear beyond Turkey, and result in Greece and Turkey too. And so this is what prompted the United States to consider the first implementation, we call it, containment, and the current eliminated all of the job. Secretary of State, by now George Marshall, had succeeded Burns. Burns and Truman had a falling out over, well, there's a long explanation behind it. Apparently, the most significant conflict between the two seemed to be over the fact that Truman, who by 1947 was getting his sea legs, so to speak, in foreign affairs, had concluded that Burns was trying to run the show. He didn't like it that Burns had done. That reflected Burns' decision to make foreign policy. And Mr. Truman therefore decided to Burns that he's vowed, or shall we say, his resignation had better be accepted. And he was replaced with a man that apparently Mr. Truman had tremendous respect for, General George Marshall, who had main chief of staff to the president, now to the Secretary of State. And so that's why I'm referring to the Secretary of State morning.
Two types of CDs, Type A, Type B. Type A credits only at maturity. Type B credits normal, monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, or annual crediting. On a Type B, all accounts receive their earnings on that same night. Type B are the CDs that are involved with exception crediting and MCEDO features.
You're going to take the offense. You're going to have to make it clear just what the problem is. And thanks to Senator Brandenburg, who reflects, of course, the bipartisanism, if you will, foreign affairs. Congress came up in 1947, $400 million initially, later on added $100 million to it, to provide for military advisors and supplies, and even some civilian advisors to Greece and Turkey in what came to be known as the Greek Turkey aid program. No troops were recommitted to this operation. All the need here was for training economic and military aid, especially military advisors. By the way, the vote in the Senate on that Greek Turkish aid was 67-23, and in the House 287-107. So it seems as if Senator Brandenburg has done the work well, negotiated by bipartisan reasons, particularly Greek Turkish incident. Essentially, what we are saying here is not only that we have retained or when we retain the Soviet Union keep around the Near East, but that the security of the Near East is important to the security of the rest of the world and to world peace, and presumably the security of the United States. In fact, I think it's interesting that all these laws now are made, including today, are called mutual security. Mutual security. This is very touchy question of security. Everybody needs to begin.
Curious a little bit, would you say, this may be speculation, but perhaps the American attitude that we would be willing to contain the Russians, if necessary, use some sort of military force to do so. That general attitude in the United States would have been impossible during Roosevelt's time. It was only after the war when people began to realize what Stalin was trying to do.
Probably not. I think for 2 years between 45 and 47. I think even the Poles will bear this out. The attitude towards the Soviet Union had changed in the United States. Even assuming now that again the attitude now that everybody's finding the field, seeing everywhere when people say Andrew, and you don't even know sometimes if they have a good knowledge of the situation. Okay? But in any event, that would seem to be more than likely that this change will come only after the intensification of Cold War. I think when the Alta agreements were violated, Russian hostility in the United Nations, incessant use of over there, they didn't have the walkouts. I heard the Franklin's broadcast Germany, or Dutch Germany, all of these added up to the situation. Yeah, I don't think it's possible. Can't prove it. I can prove that from the polls, I suppose the American public opinion was in 1941 still moderately pro-Russian. That's the same from 1947. It had changed drastically. But beyond that, I mean, Lincoln was beyond that. 46 and 47, crucial year, especially 1947. That was the most, that's the year in which the Cold War really grew. That year of all this deterioration I was talking about took place. And I haven't used all the evidences of the deterioration. Just the German situation alone, By the way, get back to Kennedy. Kennedy was very disturbed at our decision to be Greece and Turkey. He maintains that, first of all, Greece and Turkey were not important for the security of the United States, and that his policy of containment was aimed to blunt the Soviet Union move anywhere in the world, so long as those moves were dangerous to the security either of the United States or of the world in a more general way. He's not at all sure, he says, that Greece and Turkey meant that much to world security or world peace. He also says that he sees that the policy is going to be entirely to military. That he had never intended military response to be the first response. Now, when you go back and read Kennedy's article, you do get the impression that he was, that military response in containment was only one response. But apparently it was picked up as the foremost response. And hence most all of the applications that we're going to see was one way or another military, either directly or indirectly. In the case of Greece and Turkey, it was indirect, okay? In the case of Korea, it will be direct. But the point is, it was military, directly or indirectly. And he maintains too much emphasis on this. And he further maintains that he sees a danger that every time Soviet Union moved anywhere in the world, the United States simply throws in without much thought this policy of containment. Then we again are looking for a solution that we can apply anywhere. And Kennedy says he doesn't believe that the policy of containment necessarily can be used anywhere in the world. He proposed it as a possible solution under certain given circumstances. And this will often be each side individual. In other words, Kennedy is predicting that we're going to use containment everywhere in the world. And he says it should not be looked upon as a policy. And he was not at all happy. All these open calls in Greece and Turkey. So you see, Kennedy himself has some reservations about. If you want to read the X article sometimes, if you would come away with it in terms of it's a very good expose on Soviet history, Russian history, and so on. But in any event, I just thought I would mention it here in passing. Now, our containment, our implementation of containment in Greece and Turkey was of course criticized in the United States. Obviously, not all congressmen supported it, and public opinion didn't entirely support it for different reasons. But looking at some of the criticism, it was branded almost immediately as the Truman Doctrine, this aid to Greece and Turkey, and this done because it was maintained by the critics that the United States was reinterpreting the old Monroe Doctrine. You remember Monroe's message back in 1823? Well, the second point in the message said that the United States had no interest in the internal affairs of Europe. Well, the suggestion is being made here that the United States does have the internal affairs of Europe. And that the United States is going to influence the outcome of what kind of government the Greeks and the Turks have by our action. And incidentally, at the same time that this was going on, the United States had a portion of its fleet in the Mediterranean and the Adriatic Sea while the Italian elections were being held. And interpreted this as warning to the Italian Mediterranean that was trying to pop up on it as Western style. This is the case that happens in the second period of the Monroe Doctrine. Yeah. Are we in the longer 3% we don't care? Monroe Doctrine was 7 years before. Revenue, the revolution in the back of revenue. Teddy Roosevelt, like we went to Cleveland. Now we have Mr. Roosevelt reinterpretation, or Mr. Truman's reinterpretation of the doctrine. That was a strong point made, and what came to be called the Truman Doctrine actually tended to be derisive coming from initial mention. There was again, as Ken raised the question, others did, was American security involved? Was it necessary to keep Greece and Turkey away from this involved our security? And frankly, that opened up a battle that's still going on today. What constitutes a security the Cuban Wall Street security, but Vietnam, does Korea, does Berlin, does Israel. What do you mean what security? You know that guy that's going on. I'm convinced it will run for a long time, as long as this situation exists. And it's starting here with it's finally felt. It's over. So Russia got their historic longing for an outlet on the Eastern Mediterranean. So, critics, obviously the truth, and so to most of the Congress, the idea that it did. And then I mention that in some detail only because it did open up this whole battle that we've been fighting right through Vietnam. And if you notice, there was the issue of Angola and this whole African situation, this whole third world area. When something happens in the heart of Africa, does it affect the security of the United States? If you think this is an interesting, an easy question to answer, think about it. What do you mean by security? Everything you do on the definition of security and the State Department, what that started. You broadly interpret our security or you narrowly interpret security?
I was wondering what the people that were opposed to this creating this security might have been people who, just before World War II, had been extremely isolationist and gravity.
Yes, I think a connection could be made between those congressmen who are still around that opposed to this aid and some neo-isolation. See, the problem with neo-isolation is it was not popular in the 1940s. And nobody could run for Congress on that issue. In fact, the issue that was dead after 1942. I don't recall a Congress being elected on that issue after 1942. But I think there is, again, a reason, particularly noted because a number of us in the Midwest, which was traditionally the isolationist area. And I think, yes, unquestionably, that it's, I don't know if I would call it neo-isolationism. I think that might be giving it too much play, but I certainly would see it as of course, it's
You almost have to wonder whether people like that would be saying, well, so the Russians are in Jersey. So,
yeah, of course. It almost seems like another version of Soviet Union in Europe. So, that's your point? No, that's true. No, I think neo-isolationism is having to stay right now in this country. Since Vietnam, I think it is using the position where it's much further recognizable. But I think here is a kind of spot, snakiness. And I think it more reflects back to the
it seems that after the war, another way of dealing with this whole situation seems to be, we're finding this out now,
Again, the Berlin blockade called Czechoslovakia to continue Russia intransigence tended to add to this fear. And quite frankly, Britain and France, as those who might normally have
having taken up leadership in the defense of Western Europe, simply could not do this militarily. After all, they need help with their economy, and we give to them a Marshall Plan, and for them to attempt to divert any of substantial amounts of their own budgets from the economic rehabilitation to military buildup, but it had been too much. And so under the circumstances, they again could only express their view in the hope that the United States would in some way help. As early as 1948, France, Britain, and Belgium, and Holland met at Brussels and formed what we call the Brussels Defense Pact, in which they agreed to help each other in one of the members of that pact or attack. Ultimately, 14 countries, including the United States, signed the Brussels Defense Pact. The Europe system, ultimately 14 countries signed the Brussels Defense Pact to provide for mutual help in one or attack. This was the origin of NATO, really, with Britain and France taking the initiative and at least attempting to show that there was a fear on the part of Western Europe of an attack from the east, and at least they should band together in however weak an organization, and no one pretended that the Brussels Pact was a strong one in the efforts, of course, to get other countries to contribute their help, and eventually, hopefully, the United States will get its help. In other words, NATO was not our idea. The defense of Western Europe was, the defense of Western Europe was not our idea. Our contribution was NATO. We said, in other words, that we ought to branch out from the defense pact signed with Brussels to include the entire North Atlantic Treaty Area and other countries of Western Europe. Apparently, the suggestion first came from Senator Vandenberg, and the administration, who was sort of a little closer with him, agreed that the Brussels Pact ought to be expanded into what must be called a regional security alliance, or a regional security organization, which came to be called the North Atlantic Treaty Alliance. And so, resulting then from all this diplomatic negotiation and directly from the Brussels Defense Pact, a year later, in April 1949, the North Atlantic Treaty was signed among some 12 nations in Western Europe, in Canada, and the United States. Other nations would be added later, but initially there were 12 Western Europe and Canada, the United States, and nations of the North Atlantic Article. The treaty provided that attacking any one member of the organization in Europe or North America was an attack on all. And if that occurred, then each nation was bound, and I'm quoting here from the treaty, to take such action as it deems necessary, including the use of armed force, to restore and maintain the security of the North Atlantic area. So we are committed by any country joining NATO, we must committed to take such action as deemed necessary, including the use of armed force, not necessarily requiring it, but including it to restore and maintain security of the North Atlantic.
This includes nuclear arms?
Presumably, there's no mention of it, but it could, I suppose, since ultimately the basis established under NATO on a nuclear response convention. Although that's a highly controversial issue, but that's not totally established. It simply says including the use of force.
I'm glad we have a country that, like say, like Italy, or the Political Communist Party, or the United Powers.
There's no provision, as far as I can see, for indirect aggression, internal aggression. It's an external thing. I don't recall in terms of the two anywhere what we would call coercion, which is what I was saying. I would assume one thing would be sure that if that happened, that they would withdraw from the alliance. I don't think one would have to throw her out, I assume she would withdraw. But beyond that, I don't know. After all, you have to remember that the NATO alliance never really been seriously challenged, which may be one of the troubles. But it didn't have to problem.
NATO, isn't it in a way contradicting the UN? It's like a small UN. So that again would contradict the UN.
Well, here's the thing. all these regional organizations, and we're going to talk about especially regional, are permissible within the charter for regional security. But they were never intended to take the place of the UN. How you're suggesting, and many critics have suggested, is that it is doing just that. It is abandoning international action to keep peace and substituting regional center for peace. Yeah, I think that's questionable. It also, of course, again, contributes to the concept of balance of power. And this is regional development, not security. Yeah, I don't think a question about this. Maybe it's a way of saying that the United Nations is not an effective force, but rather than abolishing it, we simply provide under its charter for regional organizations. Because it's not built for the law in the charter of the UN. It was anticipated. It's a possibility. For example, suppose we form an organization like NATO or the US, nothing to do with the law. Suppose we're in a war. But suppose we have only lines of progress to help these countries basically. This needs to be very small. And so the charter makes provisions for things like this. Not everything can go through the United Nations, but that's the reason they might not necessarily have anything to do with defense. They might say, yeah, lines for progress. How about point 4? Same thing. All these things. For a need that might have nothing to do with defense or peace. I think it's a recognition, personally, of the fact that each region has its own security problem and its own needs. Still won't have without destroying the purpose of the United Nations. Like when you add to the Cold War and the difficulties in the UN, and we say that we have military. But I would have to go through the rest of the critics again. Whatever this, I would imagine in a moment that this was not maybe, I don't know about this, maybe it was the next step before international government. And it's going to be pure on a regional basis. Maybe it's the next step after the nations. I mean, this whole business of government started with very small students, you move this up to then you see nations rules the fight with each other. Maybe regionalism is the next step after nations. By the way, that's been pointed out as an aspect of Soviet tactic. Is the OAS working down there? Maybe we talk about this C90 concept. Regional organizations may very well be the next step in the evolution of global government. That's just possibility. Nobody can be sure of that, but it occurs to me sometimes. Maybe we're moving in steps to the ultimate, which would be international government. Not really yet. And so there's kind of an interim arrangement, an intermediate arrangement between the nation and international through the life of this region. It's making the way, it's not very time. Our families Because so many different countries, all over the world, sometimes appears to be reading stuff. I don't know, here's speculation. But you're correct in your version.
Is there a correlation with the level of regionalism that they would spend to old industrial sort of thinking on something like that? Which, you know, that encompasses Middle Eastern countries as well as South America.
Yeah, I think that to begin with, we got to do a lot on the regional level before we can think in terms of international, which is a need for ultimately just not where we're going on the regional, or really learn to go with that. Sometimes not too well. That's what was the problems of video, what was the problems of the OAS and so on. But yes, it would involve aspects. In fact, sometimes I think that most of the organizations today are probably originally religious. This is one of the problems we're having difficulty convincing the American people, the American Congress and Western Europe that this is a real threat now from Eastern Europe. And so the question is it NATO as a purpose? And the defenders are saying, oh, wait a minute, NATO is building a military alliance. They're on cooperation. We've got the concept of the United States of Europe, all this diplomatic value, so we're trying to sell value to notice on in areas other than the military because there, it seems to be superfluous. But it can be expanded anytime. As far as I'm concerned, as it dies, these programs will keep. Each of the participating nations also agreed to strengthen their own defenses and to settle disputes among themselves. In other words, it's obvious that the 12 nations can't fight among themselves. So we have to start by settling terms peacefully as well as preparing for the possibility of attacking on the side. And the North Atlantic Council was set up to detail the organization and policies of NATO. And of course, the council meets regularly, as you know, annually, and there's an executive committee that's set up for that purpose. I guess now some relevant meetings in Paris, so that's going to have the organization. Naturally, it was criticized. It was criticized, again, by Senator Taft and others who maintained that it wasn't an revision to the view of them today. Another one of something else, maintaining the force of Soviet hostility towards the United States. They likened it to the Soviet Union and developing Russian alliance of all Latin America, Central America, and Eastern United States. They say, well, our reaction to it was security, and this is what the Soviet Union was making their security, and withdrawn her to develop their own organization, NATO. So critics say, emphasizing the revisionist historians are fully convinced that we've done nothing but for Soviet hostility, and prompted her to say, see, we told you so. You can't trust the West and the United States. They are basically out to bring the Soviet Union and eventually to actors in Russia. They basically NATO as the danger. Certainly, it was condemned as encouraging an arms race between the East and the West, because NATO was going to NATO countries would have to be armed. Otherwise, they served the purpose of a military organization. And so, under the circumstances, it would encourage Eastern Europe then to arm, and you'd have arms race. And those who are excoriating this arms race that has developed claim NATO or beginning. And of course, the point was made that by establishing a military alliance in Western Europe, clearly against Eastern Europe, which split Europe. That this is undesirable. Split, united, and instead we kind of permanently split with this organization. The expense was always a sore spot with conservative U.S. officials. The expense, President Newman said, NATO. Of course, it probably is because Europe, as I told you earlier, paid for military preparedness is simply a matter of, if we want Western Europe to be secure militarily, we must supply. That's what I'm saying. Here is the choice. What's critical? Too much money, power is too expensive, and again, I must not encourage Europe to be one thing. Let's try this again. Senator Brandenburg, Senate Confirmation, EU 13, in favor of the treaty, and Congress immediately appropriated in July of 1949 $1.5 billion to implement the treaty. Some observations on NATO, but I mentioned the financial burden. The Senate will not commit any troops to, I'm sorry, the government is not permitted to commit any troops to NATO without congressional consent. In other words, Congress in this area is not going to have American troops committed indefinitely to Europe and in large numbers as the President may wish. This Congress will need to be required somewhere around there. This, by the way, has limited some of our credibility in Europe. The European nations wondered if the President of the United States did not free to move troops without congressional consent, what would happen if one of the member nations did not work out, and there were not sufficient American troops to result in the defense. The President presumably would have to go to Congress and ask them for permission. This had prompted, well, France, unfortunately, not spoken to them in recent years, unless they were out there. Well, one of the things France has constantly said is, President of the United States is still going to have to ask Congress with the Senate's conditions here for troops. This was really things, or will decide at any one point whether they are fully committed to NATO, in which case France says we must have now complete and absolute commitment under any conditions. France quite frankly is suspicious of the mindset. And all French opposition to NATO, the one way or another, is suspicious of the mindset. Simple fact is involved in injustice. And he had some reason not to because he was ignored. He should run from conferences that I told him about how I lead. So, in a lot of areas, the French was occupied by all those in charge of the Free French group. He should have been consulted. And I am involved in nation like France and we will defend them and bring them into consolation. All when the war was over, the war was and so much so that only this year was a problem of France and the involvement of people, but certainly since the time the war was in any event, as I said, we'll get back to that a little later, but we're not through the problems of NATO. I was suggesting to you that our credibility here was somewhat limited as a result of this limited commitment. Also, another problem, an observation that must be made about NATO is that since ultimately the United States would insist on West Germany providing provisions for NATO, this was going to put France into a frenzy and much of Western Europe, because you see when you talk about rearming the enemy who had for 3 times over your borders, well, I think you can understand that. I think if Canada had successfully invaded the United States 3 times, we would want to rearm her either for a 4th try, and having granted the number of divisions that we want, West Germany can provide, she was finally admitted, I think, but to NATO. But no, we still have finally, we should note that the United States probably stands in NATO with its first and second foreign alliance. I can't think of any other commitment we have in any other part of the world that's as strong as the NATO commitment. As we shall see when we talk about seas, it's not much comparison. The United States really has very limited commitments in the Middle East and organizations practically performed anyhow. Anywhere else, our commitments in the world do not seem to be strong because the NATO is pretty much committed on historical sites and which is not an alliance since the old 1776 We cannot sit on our hands in front of the NATO nations of the past. What we will do, I don't know, but for certain. Such action is necessary, including the use of force. Certain rules is not. Our other alliances give us a back door. The last evidence in Europe of the implementation has to do with Germany itself and the ultimate creation of an independent Western state. The reason for it, of course, is that the United States and the Soviet Union simply did not come to any agreement on the basic question in Germany, namely unification. The United States, Britain, and France on the one hand wanted, for example, a federation in Germany. The Soviet Union wanted a centralized state. You can understand that their own political subdivision we seem to suggest this, even though we know Britain and France have more. Britain has a unitary government, nonetheless, it does have local representation. So, the United States, of course, provinces and countries. So it's understandable we would push for United Kingdom. So the Union, of course, is traditionally more centralized. Any one centralized state under central government, but very little local prerogatives. And of course, the other conflict was not only born of the nature of power and authority, but of course, always logical with the communism of Germany and with the democratic Germany. Hard to say which of the two was more significant. I don't think you can view one without the other anyhow, all together. Soviet experience and Soviet desire are completely different from those of the West. All of this led to a lot of talk at Yalta, as you know, a lot of talk in Potsdam about the need to unify after Potsdam, after the unification. But every time the foreign ministry met for occupying powers in Germany, they ran into the same obstacles, the same discussions, the same delays, and very leading down at the end of the question. What type of country? You understand that we are trying to give because the Soviets giving to us, they have created a state that will be taught. If we give in to the Soviet Union, we have created a state that to us is. So it seems that to have the American side of the situation. But you can't have a partly centralized party. Federally, you can't have a partly communist coalition governments are just unrealistic. Because eventually they are temporary arrangements until one throws the other out. That's what coalition government that means. The one in certain countries can't put a half on this and half democratic circumstances. And you realize that until unification is agreed upon, the whole problem remains the question of economic unification. You know, there was talk that since the Soviet Union had gotten mostly the rural area of Germany under the occupation, we had mostly industrial, that there was a big exchange. They would send food to us and we would send as a dollar zone, and we returned to send machinery for so on. Well, a lot of economic cooperation was envisioned. But how can you have economic cooperation when you have political disagreements? When you have areas sealed off and you have this inherent on both sides, you can't have this cooperation. So to talk about economic unity is foolish until you talk first about political unity. Not that perhaps one couldn't become a basis for the other, but not while there are political differences of the kind that I have mentioned. Besides, it seems fairly evident that what happened in Germany was very important to security in Europe. The United States, the Soviet Union, the United States, Britain, France, and the Soviet Union all realized that what happened to Germany after the war, what ultimately became Germany, would have much to do with security in Europe. And naturally, Russia felt upon a Germany under her influence is important for her security, but Western upon Germany under Western influence is important for security. So the potential of Germany was not lost. The importance of Germany, the strategic importance of Germany was not lost. Even if you ignore for the moment its industrial and agricultural potential. Well, in any event, in 1948, the United States, Britain, and France decided to abandon their separate zones and consolidate them. They were speaking really as one voice in the council, and when they will consolidate their zones economically, militarily, and otherwise, it would be a lot easier to administer the joint zones. So we're going to speak of four zones after 1948. We speak of the Allied zone in the west and the Soviet zone in the east. Gradually, in 1948, the Western Zone, recognizing the probability that the German question, quote unquote, would never be fully solved, at least not in our generation, not in their generation, began to replace military government with local supervision government in Germany, in the Western sector. In 1948, the Allies authorized the provisional government to be established. Constitution brought by the Germans in the Western sector. But the Allies reserved the right to disapprove anything in that new Constitution that was detrimental to the interest of the occupying powers. In other words, the first step was taken towards German self-government in the West. Throughout the Constitution, established a provisional government, but we reserved the right to disapprove or veto anything detrimental to our interests. After all, we were still the occupying powers. This was done in 1948 or 1949, elections were held, and in May of 1949, the German Federal Republic was established, which we call West Germany. Notice the name, the German Federal Republic. It was a parliamentary system of government with its headquarters in Bonn, and you hear referred to as the Bonn government. The Allies still reserved the right, even after the German Federal Republic was established, we reserved the right to supervise the diplomacy, the trade, and the finance of the German Federal Republic. Not completely sovereign. At our fiat, they had drawn up a new constitution and established a new government, which we call the German Federal Republic. But the Allies, under a high committee, Vice President of the United States, will supervise, notice the important areas, finance, trade, and diplomacy. Almost immediately after the establishment of the German Federal Republic, the Soviet Union retaliated by establishing the German Democratic Republic, the People's Republic of East Germany, which I guess was a recognition of the conclude there would be no settlement of the German question, quote unquote, and so the Soviet Union simply reacted to our establishment of the Federal German Republic by establishing the People's Republic of East Germany. Germany appears to have been for many, many years yet to come, permanently divided. Finally, in 1952, the United States signed what is called a peace contract. The Allies signed a peace contract with the West German government. It's not called a treaty, it's called a peace contract, which restored to the Germans full sovereignty. The occupation was to be ended, the Allied High Commission to be abolished, and the only thing remnants of the Allies in Germany after 1952 under the peace contract was that we were to be allowed to have bases and troops in West Germany. That was, of course, essential to being with them in terms of NATO. The number of days we have to provide to the forces. And that was, that one of the purposes simply to prove the German question. Then we were establishing the peace of the republics, and they were not quite a deal, because it was a peace contract, as it's called. Quite frankly, the United States had come to conclude that strong West Germany was probably the key to Western strength. And the Soviet Union, by the same token, concluded that a strong East Germany was a key to her defense against Western Europe. One thing seems certain, East and West Germany act as an interesting buffer state between the Soviets in the East and the non-communist nations in the West. There was, of course, in the United States some reaction to this solution, if you will, maybe we did not be patient with students. Maybe we're really soft on journey. After all, I know this is interesting. The war is only over by what, 40 years? When the nation, at least had started out with small businesses, and suddenly freedom, we got new images. It's funny, I'm talking about all of politics, maybe strange bits of it. It seems to me that international heritage is equals here we are recording with what was going on in the other. I mean, the same thing which is bad in Asia. Those who were our friends are now our enemies. Those who were our enemies are now our friends.
I knew in my heart that we were friends. It had to be so. It couldn't be no, but try. As hard as I might do, I don't know why. You get to me in a way I can't describe. Words mean so little when you look up and smile. I don't care what people say. To me, you're more than a child. Oh, Claire, Claire, Claire. If ever a moment so rare was captured for all to compare, that moment is you in all that you do. But why find out our age difference do I cry? Each time I leave you I feel like a die. Nothing means more to me than hearing you say I'm going to marry you. Will you marry me, Uncle Ray? Oh, Claire, Claire. I've told you before, don't you dare get back into bed. Can't you see that it's late? No, you can't have a drink. Oh, alright then, but wait just a bit while I in an effort to babysit catch up my breath, what there is left of it. You can be murder at this hour of the day, but in the morning this hour will seem a lifetime away. Oh, Claire, Claire. Oh, Claire.
That's clear.
It's called truce, temporary truce, to fight Japan, to fight the common enemy. And they did that, and then after the war,
In weekend jackets, in great new colors.
Everybody gets quiet. See, it picks you up real far away.
I got a thing you can keep phone conversations.
That's illegal. No, I'm just saying it because before she said to me, that's illegal unless you tell them. And I said it to her, no, it's not.
I got, you know, drawer. You just put it on your phone. And it just,
Oh, yeah.
so we had with China, repudiated it last time in our military aid in the Chinese communists, who at this point were lying in the rural areas of China. China's forces were mainly in the urban areas. Mao's forces, military, were mainly in the rural areas, especially in Manchuria. All right, the position of Mr. Roosevelt now is that if the Soviet, before his death, is that if the Soviet or the Chinese communists now are significant in numbers, and the Chinese school back, then the only solution is coalition government. And President Roosevelt pushed for a coalition government before his death. Unsuccessful. As did a number of others who were not the Chinese senior military men as well as state permanent advisors.
Williams Show on WTAE. So nice to have you along tonight. It's 8:46, and yes, it is true they have added the words "with scattered showers" to tonight's weather forecast. Let's just hope they're really scattered.
On a WDVE, it's Peter Frampton from his latest album, Where Should I Be? The Rockets before that, some Supertramp, and a mini concert featuring Van Halen. And tomorrow morning, it's Wednesday morning, Rod Stewart is going to be in for the feature artist with Marcy between 6 and 10. And
shortly after Marshall left, China decided he was going to invade Manchuria. And the United States military had an attack and told him, don't do it, you'll be slaughtered. But it didn't make any difference. China invaded Manchuria and was cut off. All of his troops deserted. He had a 3-to-1 superiority when he invaded Manchuria. So just goes to show you that the problem of logistics wasn't his own time. He invaded Manchuria, where the communists were hold in the rural areas in a guerrilla type situation, and they simply cut him off. After this course of they cut him off. He came here to fight on Mao's court, and he didn't understand it. And he still thought his military superiority 3-to-1. And by the way, the loyalty of his men, which apparently he should not have counted on, because of the number of desertions that it did not. Killed him. And of course, the size of the American government. General Marshall had warned him, don't ever invade Manchuria. General still does. Keep your head above it. You can't hit the communists in their own territory. Make them come to you. Don't go to them. You're taking up an indefensible position in Manchuria because that's where they're strong. You don't go into the enemy's camp, you bring the enemy into your camp. That's what the communists were trying to do, don't you? Because they succeeded. 3-to-1 superiority in the Chinese and of course, Washington still will say, well, you see what we mean about General Chang? He won't take military advice. He keeps doing foolish stuff with military. This seems to convince him of it. In 1947, the United States decided, we were going to withdraw the 2,000 troops we had in China, and we were going to substantially cut our aid, because he was getting very impatient with General Chang. Not only that, the pace at this point that our aid was being passed on to the communists, and I'll get back to that later. But one more effort was made in 1947 when Germany, President Eisenhower, President of the Truman Party, sent General Albert Wiedemeyer, that's W-E-E-M-E-Y-E-R, General Wiedemeyer, to investigate the situation in China. And Wiedemeyer was a little more optimistic about military success there, but he said it couldn't be done unless the United States gave massive aid to China. In other words, we'd have to pour it into China like we poured the Marshall Plan aid into Europe. That, he said, would save China. He also recommended, by the way, one way of solving the differences between the communists and the nationalists there was to place Manchuria under the United Nations.
And I can't sing my song, boy, if no one's here to sing along now. No one's here to sing along. I cannot sing my song if no one's here to sing along now. No one's here to sing along. It's gypsy eyes I gaze upon and see the pool of life. She's the gypsy in my life, and nobody can be sure. She's a woman, she's my wife. Oh, the gypsy eyes for me. She's a maiden to be, and I hope she'll always love me. She's a gypsy I've been waiting for. The gypsy eyes of my life. The gypsy eyes of my life. She has loved me for life. I hope to make her my wife. I loved him since my younger days, and I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I loved her, and she knows that she loved me. How I can be the show. Every gypsy woman around me, every gypsy woman surround me, every gypsy woman, they're my life.
Further money from China would be like $20 million back, as they say, and this project, not to go along with the Wiedemeyer suggestion, not for a